Right, the freedom convoys that started in Canada, then rolled across the United States, revealed something simple yet profound to many Americans. Each of us, using what we have right where we are, can stand up and defend what is valuable and important to us. For those who listen to Washington Watch regularly, you've heard me say before, our form of government, this constitutional republic of ours, was made for participants, not spectators. We all, and I emphasize all, have a part to play in preserving the freedoms that we have been entrusted with. Over the last 2 years, we watched the overreaching arm of governments impose one mandate after another on the American people. Many of these mandates have been lifted either by court action or by government officials who reluctantly responded to the growing public pushback. Nothing has become more symbolic, I believe, of these overreaching government mandates than the mask mandates that have literally muzzled the American people. Now, the critics would say, how can you make such a claim? It's very simple. Follow the science. From the start, there was little, if any, scientific support for the claim that masks prevent the introduction, transmission, and spread of COVID-19. The science supporting a position opposed to the mandates was limited initially, but not anymore. Studies now not only show that the masks are actually ineffective, but the science screams that the mask mandates are actually harmful, especially to children. Studies show these masks are linked to skin issues, carbon dioxide in the blood, anxiety, and depression, which outweighs any possible benefit of mask mandates. For this reason, many schools have either been forced to or have voluntarily dropped their mask mandates. The primary area where the mask mandates continue is the federal government's mask mandates that consist of masks on planes. But again, the science that those on the left repeatedly point to as justification, acting as if the rest of America can't read, doesn't even come close to supporting their mandate. According to epidemiologists, the air filtration systems on airplanes make them one of the safest public places on Earth in terms of viruses. The HEPA filters on commercial aircraft capture more than 99% of airborne particles. The air changes on those planes about every 2 minutes. So if the science doesn't support the mask mandate, why do we have them? Well, for some in government, it is designed to pacify, to make people feel safe, since some have seized upon the pandemic to scare people into hiding. But for others, the leftist, that occupy positions of authority, it is about control. Initially, I believe the intentions of those in government were genuine in seeking the well-being of people in the face of a relatively unprecedented challenge. But it wasn't long after that we had mayors like Eric Simmons in Greenville, Mississippi, ordering churches to close and then having police write citations to church members who sat in their parked cars on the church parking lot listening to a drive-in service. We had governors like California's Gavin Newsom, who shut down churches, fined them millions of dollars, and threatened them with arrest when they refused to comply. It became evident that this was about more than public safety. This was about political power and control. And I began to warn pastors and others to not look at the response to this pandemic as a one-off, a once-in-a-lifetime event. Instead, we needed to look at this as a harbinger of things to come. What we accepted in terms of the infringement upon our rights in this health emergency would become the norm in the next. That's why last night, FRC Action, the political arm of the Family Research Council, filed a federal lawsuit against President Biden and his mask mandate. We've watched others file suits that have not succeeded, and we've watched those at various state and local levels that have succeeded. As a result, we've crafted a unique lawsuit, equipped with the knowledge of what has prevailed in court and what has not. This challenge, we believe, can lead to the striking down of the federal mask mandate as an unjustified overreach of the federal government. Our goal is to ensure the mask mandate cannot be reinstated in the future at the whim of any leftist who wants to exercise control over the American people. We are joining with the truckers doing what we can with what we have to preserve what we've been entrusted with, our freedom. It is time to end this government overreach. And if you think so, I'd like to hear from you. Is it time to end this government overreach? Well, take our poll. Text the word poll to 67742. That's 67742, the word poll, and take it. And I'll share the results with you at the end of the program. Again, text the word poll to 67742. All right. In our last segment, we spoke with the Attorney General of Texas about Disney's plan to take action against the Lone Star State's effort to protect children from permanent modifications to their bodies, either surgically or through chemicals. Now, what led to that decision by Disney's leadership is a combination of factors, one of which is pressure from shareholders and LGBTQ activists who have been engaging in shareholder activism. Unknown to most, you need only to have one share of a publicly traded company to attend a shareholder meeting. After discovering this, my next guest decided to do the same thing and has been doing it for a number of years. But in order to engage companies from a right-of-center perspective. So, what was the outcome of a current shareholder meeting at Disney in which my next guest confronted the CEO? Well, joining me now to tell us all about it is Justin Danhof, Executive Vice President of the National Center for Public Policy Research, and he is behind the Stop Corporate Tyranny campaign that is fighting the left's nearly complete takeover of corporate America. Justin, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tony, it's always great to talk with you.
All right, so you attended a Disney shareholder meeting recently, and you confronted the CEO about the leftist policies of Disney. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so based on the great work of Chris Rufo, who's been exposing a lot of corporate trainings that are related to critical race theory and so-called anti-racism, we uncovered a trove of documents of Disney making their employees do things such as fill out white privilege checklists, put themselves on hierarchies based on race, sexual identity, gender, and the like. So we just put a shareholder resolution into Disney, letting them know that there's a couple of risks involved with going down this road. First of all, it's creating a hostile work environment. There was actually a group of Disney employees that sent a letter that was obtained by the Daily Wire anonymously to the leadership at Disney, basically saying if they're right of center or a person of faith, they no longer feel welcome at all at the Walt Disney Company. Think about that. You cannot work for an entertainment company, the magical kingdom, if you are right of center these days in 2022. And so our resolution really highlighted the reputational and legal risks involved in continuing to go down this route. But suffice it to say, Disney's management, and the company's board all opposed our efforts. And the resolution was defeated, but our voice was heard.
What's your sense among the majority of the shareholders? I mean, are they in lockstep with this leftist leaning Disney leadership?
The shareholders who invest in Disney to make money, absolutely not. But the shareholders that use their voice, yes, they are with Disney's management. And so, for example, in advance of the March 9th shareholder meeting, Bob Chapek, the CEO of Disney, actually took a neutral stance on Florida's parental rights legislation when it regards sexual content being foisted on kindergarten through third grade individuals. Except the leftists spoke up so loud that during the shareholder meeting, Chapek reversed course, said the company was joining the Human Rights Campaign and 150 other companies to oppose Florida's legislation. Not only that, they are preemptively opposing parental rights legislation in any state that would dare put one forward. That was the announcement that Chapek made. He folded like a cheap suit. It shows that he's got no corporate spine, no courage as an individual. He's a very feeble man, and he's who's running the helm at Disney. And again, we need more voices on the right to come and speak out at these shareholder meetings, because I have to tell you, Tony, I was encouraged by a few voices that backed our resolution this year, but the vast majority of activist investors who show up, They're pushing their affinity issues from the LGBTQ community, and they're doing it in very large numbers. And they're backed by some of the biggest investors, such as BlackRock and State Street. So we've got quite a road ahead of us, but I'm encouraged that there are more voices in this fight on the right than there ever have been. But look, we have parents who are showing up at school board meetings. They're taking over school boards. They're recalling terrible members because they want to protect their children, right? Because the left wants to, what do they want to do? They view God and parents as the enemy. They want to control what children see, the narratives that they're given. I'm glad that folks are showing up and parents are showing up to bring back their parental rights when it comes to schools. But just know that you can do the same thing in the corporate arena as well, because corporate America wants to control what your children see, the content, and believe me, they want to corrupt your family and your culture. And so you can fight in the schools, but you can also fight at the corporate level.
Well, I think the actions of Disney also make very clear that they want to use the company to make an in-run around parents and create content that is objectionable to these parents. They want to, as you said, it's not just those outside leftists. I mean, it's the inside leftist of Disney who have no regard for God or for their parents.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, no regard is putting it lightly. I mean, they have complete disregard for faith and the family. And so again, there's an ample opportunity, as you pointed out, if you want to get involved with Disney. I mean, their share price is sinking. I think it's about $92 or something these days. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere around there. For one share, you can have your voice be heard.
So let me go back to the meeting you were in, and as you said, the CEO chastised by the left, and now pledging to not only engage in Florida, but as I mentioned earlier, to go to Texas. And then you said anywhere these parental rights bills pop up, Disney's going to oppose them. What does that mean? What are they going to do? I mean, are they going to send out Mickey and Goofy? I mean, what are they going to do?
Well, they're putting their money where their mouth is. They committed $5 million to leftist organizations that rally in states to oppose such legislation. So they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're going to work to stop the legislative process in conservative states. And we should also really stop for a moment to point out the hypocrisy of all of this, right? You talk about Texas banning abortion after 15 months. There's similar legislation in Florida. Well, what about France? Right? France has for a long time banned abortion after 12 weeks. Is Disney going to close Disney Paris anytime soon? I don't think so. Are they going to keep showing their films in France? Of course they are. And so it's very interesting where we've got a company that constantly moralizes to Americans, but they say nothing about foreign countries and atrocities such as the slave labor camps where they filmed the film Mulan.
We don't even have time to get into China and the duplicity there and the hypocrisy. Is this on the part of some of these left? You said the human rights campaign, they give them $5 million. Is this so also some of these groups on the left? Isn't this a shakedown of corporate America to some degree?
To some degree, it follows the old Jesse Jackson model, right, of the corporate shakedown. But in all honesty, it's almost gone from the shakedown to the handshake behind the back, right? Where, companies pay the Human Rights Campaign huge sums. I'd implore your, audience, just Google or go to DuckDuckGo and type in Human Rights Campaign corporate sponsors. It's a who's who of leading American companies across industries. So they pay the Human Rights Campaign on the one hand, for the Human Rights Campaign then to dictate corporate action on the other hand. So they're basically paying their own masters in that sense. And so if they were paying them to go away, that'd be one thing, but they're paying them and then aligning their actions with the policies that are promoted by the Human Rights Campaign, including obviously the big push for transgenderism that is at the top of the forefront of the far left movement.
Justin, when you look at I guess you would say the clientele of Disney, this doesn't make sense when the people they're trying to reach to draw into their amusement parks.
No, it doesn't. And that's where, again, the parents have a voice and they're not using it, right? So this is supposed to be a family-friendly company. it is anything but. It's offensive to the traditional American family. And so I think that, again, even if you're not an investor, again, $92 will get you a voice in that room. But if you are a customer or would be customer, but are outraged by what you've seen, let Disney know. Don't be outraged in silence. If you post something on your Twitter or Facebook, that's going to go to your family and friends who likely have share your worldview already. That's not going to advance the cause. Post it on Disney's Facebook page. Tweet at Disney. Call their customer relations office. Call and cancel your trip to Disney and let them know why you're doing so. Because again, there are employees within Disney that share our values, Tony. They just feel very silenced and stuck in a corner right now. So if the Disney employees hear from the outside, that's going to embolden them.
Good advice. Good advice. Justin Danhof, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Tony. Have a great day.
And folks,